So the Roselle and Robert Icahn Scholar in Residence program was a gift to the Kahn honor of their, to the couple in honor of their 35th wedding anniversary and Rabbi Kahn's 65th birthday from a bunch of their friends and members of the congregation. And the idea of this Scholar in Residence series is to bring in leading thinkers in the Reform movement. And so as we were thinking about leading thinkers in the Reform movement, we were really excited to invite Rabbi Dr. Nancy Wiener to speak to us tonight. She was actually supposed to come last year and couldn't, and we're so glad you're finally here. Rabbi Wiener is the founding director of the Jacob and Hilda Blaustein Center for Pastoral Counseling at HUC-JIR in New York. Go Leviathans. She was named the Dr. Paul and Trudy Steinberg Distinguished Professor in Human Relations in 2012, and she serves as the Rabbinical Program's Fieldwork Coordinator. There are lots of things I could tell you about her. She is an amazing teacher of pastoral care. But what I will say about her is that one of the things that fifth-year students in rabbinical school have to do is write a thesis, and you get to request from a professor to be your thesis advisor. And it was so abundantly obvious to me who I wanted to have as my thesis advisor, mostly because I wanted to have like an opportunity to hang out in your office and talk about big issues and exciting things, but also because that I knew that your wisdom and your sensitivity and your creativity were things I wanted to learn more from in depth before I went out to become a rabbi. And so it was a blessing to work with you then. It's an incredible blessing to have you here as our teacher tonight. And so I am excited to share Rabbi Dr. Nancy Wiener with you.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Genesis is the beginning book of the Bible and the book of beginnings, which provides us with images of a world created from chaos, from tohu vavohu, a world that's spoken into being, a rather dreamlike image, sort of magical. Elements that exist out in the world are swirling around, and God, we're told, sees them from a vantage point that defies the waking imaginations of humans and combines them into day and night, into sea and land and sky, into systems with vegetation and water to support animals and humans. A motif that runs throughout the Torah portions from this week through the end of the book of Genesis is that individuals' dreams have the power to transform their lives and the world. Indeed, the most powerfully motivating dreams seem to emerge at the moments when somebody has lost their known signposts, and they're not sure how to put the seemingly disparate pieces of their lives together into a future that they can imagine themselves living into. This week's Torah portion begins with Jacob at the darkest and most chaotic point in his life. He who has received his father's blessing, he who is his mother's favorite, has fled his family's home because he stole his twin's birthright and blessing. And now his twin brother is set on killing him. He leaves with no money, no apparent skills to fend for himself. His brother was the hunter, he was the homebody, and no way to make real the promise of the blessing that he had received. In fact, with each step that he takes towards the border of the land, his blessing and its promises are further from his reach. The promise of a future filled with descendants that would take place in that land. It's at this juncture that Jacob has his first dream. His dream of a ladder with angels going up and down between earth and heaven, a dream in which God comes to him promising two things: the land, the same one that he's about to leave, and a future in which all peoples will be blessed through him and his descendants. When Jacob wakes the next day, the tale of his journey, narrated at the beginning, is interrupted by the dream, but his journey continues. It describes Jacob as lifting his feet, and according to a midrash in Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer, he arrives in Haran, his destination, in the blink of an eye. It would seem that though described as awake, he's still asleep. He's still in a dreamlike state, for only when he gets to Haran is he described as lifting his eyes and actually noticing the things around him. The rabbis explain the alacrity with which he arrives in Haran as an indication that the dream has empowered him to imagine a possible future for himself that had seemed completely unattainable when he went to sleep. Unattainable as he fled from the house of his parents, as he left his homeland, the only home that he'd ever known. After years in Haran, working for his mother's brother, he's a married man, married to his cousins Leah and Rachel, and he has fathered children with both of them and their handmaids. He's managed to master animal husbandry and has made a deal with his father-in-law to take the speckled flocks, making himself a wealthy man. Yet, he feels oppressed by his father-in-law, who, for decades, has not paid him fair wage. In those years, he never, ever felt himself to be his own man. He seems far, far away from realizing the promise that God had made to him. And it's at that point that he has his second dream, a dream that we tend not to pay much attention to as we read this portion because the angels is so enticing, but a dream nonetheless that is life-altering again for him. In this dream, he sees what has filled his days for decades: flocks. Flocks of different colors, flocks of different sizes, and of different values. This earthbound, materially focused dream, according to the medieval commentators, serves as a wake-up call for Jacob. They explain that the images of herds that flash before Jacob in this dream show him how much he's changed since his first dream. Rather than dreaming of the earthly and the heavenly, he is totally earthbound. He has become like his father-in-law and his father-in-law's kin, acquisitive, concerned only with accumulating wealth. He's forgotten the values which he was raised with. In this second dream, as he describes it to his wives, God called to him directly and told him to arise and leave the land that he's in and return to his native land. Nothing tangible has changed in Jacob's life or in his world. Yet his dream contains all of the familiar elements of daily life and presents the seemingly familiar in a new way to him. And suddenly, Jacob can see himself and the world from a vantage point that had eluded him until that moment, or perhaps that he'd been unwilling or unable to see. Jacob can begin to conceive of a future for himself that is not merely a continuation of his present, a future that is the fulfillment of the promise that God had made to him years before. Dreams invite us to play with what we think we know and consider new options and possibilities. When we dream, either while asleep or as we daydream during the day, disbelief is briefly suspended. The familiar and the unfamiliar coexist, unbound by time or space or logic. The multisensory, uncensored experiences of dreams expose us to possibilities that do not and cannot yet exist in our waking world. We see ourselves as we long to see ourselves. We see ourselves as we hope never to be. We hear and taste and smell and touch a world that has never been. We see our conflicts and we see possibilities, viable and fantastic, all born of our joys, our fears, and our longings. Emanating from the depths of our being, dreams have the power to move us, and profoundly as any lived experiences we've known. Contemporary scientists who study sleep patterns and dreams explain that in dreams we detach from our conscious waking life and enter the realm of the unconscious and the imagination. In a dream state, a different kind of information becomes available to us as our bodies and brains rest, and we're able to integrate what confronts us during our waking hours. As Benjamin Baird, a researcher at the Center for Sleep and Consciousness at the University of Wisconsin in Madison, explained, what the brain is doing at all times is trying to construct a model of the world around us from the best input it has. When we're awake, he says, the input comes from our environment, but when we're asleep, the input comes from within. Dreams defy the laws that govern our waking lives. When we enter a dream state and our disbelief is suspended, the impossible and the unimaginable coexist. Our great-grandparents can be sitting in conversation with our grandchildren. The favorite tree from our childhood home can appear in our current backyard. The person who hurt us as a child can be our best friend and our newest collaborator in a project that we'd never dreamed of before. The sounds of sirens calling people to bomb shelters can turn into birds singing songs of peace and harmony. Dreams are described in the Talmud as 1/60th of prophecy. The prophets encouraged the people to suspend their disbelief so that they could dream and imagine themselves behaving differently, so that they could dream and imagine a world transformed. The prophets encourage people to dream so that they could heal themselves, so that they could heal their world. The Hebrew word lahachlim can be translated in two ways: to cause someone to dream and to heal. Encouraging others to dream, allowing ourselves to dream, particularly in dark times when everything seems chaotic, can be healing for us and for our world. Long before Freud considered the importance of analyzing dreams, the dreams in Genesis, dreamt by Jacob and Joseph and Pharaoh and Laban, and the cup maker and the baker in the prison, underscore for us the possibilities that can open up when we remember and reflect upon our dreams. Eleanor Roosevelt said, "The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams." When we share our dreams for ourselves and our world, we take the first step toward making them real. Think of it, every time we gather as a Jewish community, we read prayers that remind us of our shared vision, our collective dream of what the future can be. We are reminded that it's okay to dream and that we aren't alone in our dreaming. As we learn from Jacob and Joseph, even when our options seem most limited, when the world around us seems most chaotic and dark, and our future seems profoundly threatened, our dreams can be a lifeline. Holding on to our dreams can be a sign of our resilience. Our dreams can help us heal the past and the present and restore our faith that there will be a future that we're willing to work toward for ourselves and for our descendants. As Langston Hughes wrote, "Hold fast to dreams, for if dreams die, life is a broken-winged bird that cannot fly. Hold fast to dreams, for when dreams go, life is a barren field, frozen with snow." As we sing the Aleinu in a few minutes, may we hold fast to our shared dreams, and may we let them take flight. Shabbat Shalom.